A retired police officer who became an inspiration has passed away. The government says it will open up more Crown land to municipalities. And more evacuations due to raging wildfires. Good evening and thank you for joining us. A local hero has passed away. Retired Constable Craig Town died on Wednesday night at age 65.
Town joined the Thunder Bay Police Force in 1989, but it was his recovery from a tragic shooting in the line of duty 2 years later that caused him to become an inspiration. Mike Lang has been following his story and he joins us live in the studio. Mike.
Thanks, Ryan. Town, he was shot in the neck and shoulder in that 1991 incident at the Balmoral Police Station. Town miraculously survived but became a quadriplegic, but nevertheless, the injured constable was still able to live out the rest of his life as a loving family man and an active member of the community. The flags are flying at half-mast outside of the Thunder Bay Police headquarters for Craig Town, the man who survived bullets after a dangerous suspect grabbed the gun out of Town's holster and shot the officer twice.
I hated him, but after talking with my wife and discussing the whole situation, I realized that hating wasn't hurting anyone but me.
Town eventually forgave his perpetrator, Donovan Miller, for taking away the use of his arms and legs while sparing his life. A life Town lived for another 32 years, where he remained an official member of the Thunder Bay Police Service until his recent retirement. Town took part in events such as the police parade and was honored with his 30 years of service bar this past February.
No doubt about the fact that I love Thunder Bay. It's been great to me before I was injured, and it's been phenomenal to me after my injury. I don't think there's another city in Canada that could have supported it.
Mayor Ken Boshkov has known Town well over the past 3 decades or more, and has long considered him an inspirational hero for the way he dealt with what happened to him in that 1991 incident.
Not only was he a loving person, but demonstrating that kind of courage, poise, dignity, and appreciation for life. But he was blessed with a great family and lots of friends who cared about him, and I know that his colleagues from the force always included him.
Town received the same amount of love that he gave to his family and community. He was looked after by his wife Jillian and received 24-hour nursing through disability coverage. Craig Town was 65 years old. Mike Lang, TBT News.
Ontario's Natural Resources and Forestry Minister says the province will soon make more Crown land available for municipalities to purchase through the creation of a new task force.
Graydon Smith made the announcement at today's Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce Leaders Luncheon. The Ford government is still dealing with the fallout of its decision to open up Southern Ontario's green belt to private development. But Smith says this new avenue will only be available to municipalities.
When the North thrives, Ontario thrives.
Minister Graydon Smith says his government is creating a new Crown Land Task Team to facilitate the sale of Crown land for housing or other economic opportunities. Smith, speaking at the latest Chamber of Commerce Leaders Luncheon, insists this will help speed development and unlock vital revenue streams for northern communities.
So here in Northern Ontario, there's a lot of Crown land. Some of it is within municipal boundaries of existing communities, but they need access to it for their communities to grow. So what we want to create through this task team is a streamlined process so these communities for housing, economic development can get access to the purchase of this Crown land faster, and this task team will help provide a lot of resources that they need to step through those many parts of the process. So trying to streamline it for them, trying to provide some capacity for them to help get through the process quickly so communities in the north can keep growing and expanding.
The news was met with approval by the area business leaders in attendance. Chamber President Charla Robinson believes this will help alleviate some concerns here in the Northwest.
Yeah, certainly the availability of Crown land has been something that's been an ongoing concern. So really, really great to hear that the government has listened to the municipalities that have raised those concerns and is now putting in place a system to try to simplify those processes. And so we'll be watching to see what comes out of that committee and what improvements can be made. And hopefully that will help to address some of the concerns that have been raised for a number of years.
Smith says additional land should be made available through the new Crown Land Task Team next year. Ontario is sending crew and equipment to the Northwest Territories to help battle the wildfires raging there.
Those fires have forced thousands of people to evacuate the city of Yellowknife. Siobhan Morris has the latest on the effort to lend a hand.
This is what firefighters in the Northwest Territories are up against. Flames eating through forest. A red glow creeping closer to the capital of Yellowknife. Its streets deserted after its more than 20,000 residents cleared out. Ontario is sending help to keep the flames back. 65 personnel, including firefighters, command and support staff, some of them landing today. Hoses and hose bags, pump kits, and batteries for radios.
If we don't get these guys more gear to defend that city, it's going to be pretty catastrophic what happens there.
Charity Global Medic is sending help of its own.
The one thing they really need is more fire trucks. Well, it's really hard to make a fire truck appear except for units like this.
A 1,000-liter water tank and pump system, a little bigger than a washing machine that can be used to snuff out fire.
Because it fits on the back of a pickup truck, and there's a lot of pickup trucks in Yellowknife, we're able to turn any one of those pickup trucks into a fire truck.
One unit's being flown to Yellowknife from Toronto, the other on its way from Edmonton.
It'll arrive Friday night. It's going to be given to the fire chief. It'll be put onto one of their pickups, and it'll be now a forward unit.
The Red Cross is lending a hand in Alberta. That's where many evacuees have wound up, having left the familiar and comfortable behind. The Red Cross is connecting people with shelter, pillows, blankets, and toiletries while they wait to find out if they can go home.
And that was Siobhan Morris reporting, and we'll have more on the Northwestern Ontario wildfires later on in the news hour.
A decision by Alterna Savings to close its Ignace branch on September 15th is being met with concern from the community.
It's the only financial institution left in Ignace, and the nearest bank is 100 kilometers away in Dryden. Carl Langdon spoke with interim Mayor Kim Bakery about the closure and brings us more in this report.
The township of Ignace's interim mayor, Kim Bakery, was shocked by a recent phone call with Alterna Savings, which has announced plans to close their branch in Ignace without first consulting the community.
Very disappointed in them because they never gave us any notice, really. They just called probably 2 weeks before people got their letters and said, this is what's happening.
Alterna justified the closure by citing issues maintaining adequate levels of staffing and low investment interest. But Bakery, whose council has given her the task of finding a solution, says she has made attempts to offer the bank incentives to stay, including offers from former employees willing to come out of retirement to staff the bank. The township has also offered to provide funding to train new employees and even space within their municipal building to offset expenses.
I have heard the odd comment, what is council doing for us? Well, you know what? We are not sitting back not doing anything for them. We are fighting for this community. And now we're going to take it up a step. We are going to go to the board of directors.
Bakery has been left pleading with Alterna, as the only other option left for the residents of Ignace who need to deposit cash is to drive over 100 kilometers to the nearest physical bank branch in Dryden. At the top of the list of those who will face difficulties if the community loses Alterna are local business owners who routinely make cash deposits and would incur multiple hours of time lost each time they need to make a deposit. Local business owners we spoke to were clearly distraught, describing the situation as a nightmare.
Give us a year. Give us a year. Let the community prove to you that we can keep this bank open.
In a statement put out by the township this week, council stated that they're also exploring mitigating solutions in the event Alterna does go ahead and closes the branch. Carl Langdon, TBT News.
As Northwestern Ontario continues to see more accidents and fatalities on area highways, local MPP Lise Bourgeois wants to see 24-hour truck inspection stations and better road safety initiatives. Bourgeois believes that recent transport collisions in our region are mainly caused by the lack of driver training, and not just during the winter months. She feels the trucking company should also be held more accountable for accidents. While the construction of a new inspection station east of the city is soon to be complete, the NDP member for Thunder Bay Superior North says the truck inspections won't be done consistently if the station ends up being understaffed.
And so we've got a brand new inspection station coming open maybe sometime this month or in September. Fantastic. But then the release says they're only going to staff it as needed. Well, what does that mean? Those stations need to be staffed, if not 24/7, for substantial amounts of time.
The new inspection station started construction in October of 2021. The MTO hasn't confirmed when the $30 million project will be completed and ready for big truck inspections.
The Muskeg Express is back on the tracks and ready to charm riders once again at Centennial Park. The popular ride is set to reopen tomorrow morning. The train derailed last month for the second time in 3 years when an issue with one of the newly installed wheels caused it to slip off the track in the middle of a ride. Thankfully, the passenger car wasn't impacted and none of the riders were injured. The necessary repairs have now been made and the train has been inspected by the Technical Standards and Safety Authority. The Muskeg Express will once again run from 11 to 4 Wednesday through Sunday. It will also be open on Labor Day, Monday, September 4th, for its final day of the season.
Two sisters from Thunder Bay have teamed up to produce a horror film inspired by their summers at the lake.
Lempo is currently being filmed at the family camp in the Lappy area. Holden Dougal has the story.
Tina and Laura Lynn Petrick still spend their summers together at the family camp on One Island Lake. Now it's the setting for their horror film, Lempo.
I wanted to write a story that was uniquely Thunder Bay. And the idea that popped into my mind immediately was a bunch of friends sitting around in a sauna drinking crystal beer.
Writer and producer Tina explains that she wanted to write something based on her Finnish heritage.
Lempo, once upon a time in Finnish pagan history, occultism, legend, he was considered the god of fertility and love. However, his image was warped once Christianity took over Finland. He was warped into the devil himself.
Director Laura Lynn is pulling out the Super 8 camera to bring a vintage look to some of her flashback scenes.
It will be very inspired by 70s and 80s thrillers as well as slashers, and there'll be some elements of Scandinavian cinema like Bergman.
The film is set in 2004, which is the era special to the sisters as they were growing up.
We have always kind of messed around and made work together, so this is just doing the real thing. It's pretty exciting, and it's definitely bringing us really close, and it feels really special. Action!
They surpassed their crowdfunding goal of $10,000, which will be mainly going towards paying cast and crew, equipment, and supplies.
We were immensely successful with that thanks to all of the local support that we've been given. The people of Thunder Bay have been so amazing to us, have really got excited about the project, and we couldn't do this film without them.
Once they're finished production, they'll be editing till Halloween. Then after that, they'll be submitting films to film festivals. Holden Dougal, TV2 News.
Oh, I think he wins the best stand-up of the year.
Holden getting into it there, getting into the spirit.
Awesome.
Can't wait to see the movie.
Oh, absolutely, me too. Well, turning to weather now, Mitch, it was a beautiful day out there, and it seems like that temperature is going to kind of continue throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I think the temperature was doing better than Holden at the end of that video. It was beautiful outside today. Started a little bit cooler, making its way up to 24. And with all the winds we saw yesterday, starting to dissipate here in Thunder Bay, only reaching up to 22 kilometers from the northwest, with gusts to 30 kilometers. So that wind has made its way out of Thunder Bay. It is still affecting part of the region. We did see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. Now, not a lot to talk about in the region, as similar conditions throughout in Thunder Bay. Plenty of sunshine moving out to Fort Frances at 24 with fairly clear skies expected tonight, while farther in the northwest, From Red Lake, a little bit warmer, sitting around seasonal at 25 with clouds in the area. Expecting a little bit more cloud coverage tonight, but fairly nice as well as we head farther northeast to Armstrong and Greenstone at 25 and 23 with plenty of sunshine in the area. While Marathon a little bit cooler down to 17 and 18 in Sault Ste. Marie, also seeing plenty of clear skies and those conditions continuing tonight. Now in Thunder Bay, it's going to drop down to around 13 tonight, clear to partly cloudy, so a little bit of clouds making their way in. The wind is going to pick up just a little bit from the southeast, 9 to 28 kilometers an hour, but pretty much a nice day, a nice night, and even nicer conditions on the weekend. I'll have those details in just a bit.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mitch. Well, when we return, we'll have more on the wildfires in the Northwest Territories that have forced thousands of people to evacuate the city of Yellowknife. That's after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Tired, frustrated. My whole family's already gone.
Crews continue to battle a massive wildfire in the Northwest Territories.
Thousands of residents have now fled the city of Yellowknife under an evacuation order. Bill Fortier has the latest on the impact and the federal government's response.
Thousands gassed up, stocked up on groceries at one of few businesses still open, and hit the highway out of Yellowknife.
Kind of crazy. I don't know. I haven't been in too many big fires like this.
Others waited for buses to the airport, many still coming to grips with the extraordinary situation. The first full evacuation in Yellowknife's history.
Don't know where we're going or how long.
Tired, frustrated. My whole family's already gone.
The mass exodus left what's usually the hub of the Northwest Territories eerily quiet. Ottawa is calling on airlines to add more flights on top of what's already been added and promising to try to get more military aircraft involved in the effort. Last night, the Canadian Armed Forces moved nearly 80 long-term patients out of Yellowknife's hospital.
The Canadian Coast Guard is providing personnel and equipment to assist with firefighting. Public Services and Procurement Canada is supporting the territory with emergency contracting, and the RCMP is on the ground helping with evacuation efforts.
Today and Saturday are critical in the fight to save the Northwest Territories capital. Shifting winds are blowing the fire directly towards the city. Firefighters have built 3 fire breaks, the black lines snaking their way through the forest.
To date, they've removed 150 hectares of trees, which is the buffer between the fire and Yellowknife. That's going to make a big difference slowing it down.
And with very little rain over the past couple of days, crews are not getting the help they need from Mother Nature. Territorial officials say the wildfire could make it to the edge of town by some point this weekend. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Yellowknife.
The federal government is also demanding that Meta lift its ban on Canadian news from its platforms in order to allow people to share wildfire information.
What Meta is doing totally unacceptable, and I warned them during the conversations in the past of the risk of blocking news. I'm asking them to go back on their decision and allow people to have access to news and information in Canada.
Meta started blocking Canadian news on its Facebook and Instagram platforms earlier this month in response to a federal bill requiring internet giants to pay for news content. Residents evacuating wildfires say the lack of news links on social media have made it difficult to access accurate information.
Moving to BC now, where the city of Kelowna has declared a state of emergency as a nearby wildfire threatens that city. Officials provided an update this afternoon on the difficult battle against the flames.
We fought hard last night to protect our community. Somebody described it to me last night in the heat of the battle as it was like 100 years of firefighting all at once in one night.
Wildfire officials added that structures have already been lost in the fires, but so far there have been no casualties. More than 2,400 properties are under evacuation orders and nearly 5,000 are under evacuation alert. The fire started Tuesday and has grown to more than 11 square kilometers in size.
Today, Green Party leader Elizabeth May addressed the escalating wildfires in the Northwest Territories and her home province of BC.
We need to rethink our response to extreme weather events, and we also need to rethink our obligation to reduce carbon emissions to those levels that will avoid levels of climate crisis to which we cannot adapt. We're on a very, very, very knife edge here.
May says increasing climate crisis events will require a very different approach from all orders of government, including rethinking our emergency warning systems to include things like sirens in the event landlines or cell phones stop working.
And it's not just here in Canada, of course. Now to Hawaii, where authorities are canvassing what's left after the massive wildfires there. More than 1,000 people are still unaccounted for, and at least 111 people are confirmed dead so far. Now there are growing questions about whether the disaster could have been prevented. ABC's Melissa Adan has the latest.
As questions mount in the devastating Hawaii wildfires, a stunning resignation. The head of Maui's emergency management agency, Herman Andaya, stepping down, citing health reasons. This comes amid growing scrutiny over the decision not to activate Maui's siren system. Andaya defending that decision, saying the protocol is to use sirens only during tsunami warnings, not during fires.
The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Malka And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
It's the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. The cause still under investigation. President Biden and the First Lady heading to Maui on Monday.
They want to make sure that they deliver a message of support, that the federal government has been and will continue to be there for the people of Maui for as long as it takes.
Meanwhile, the governor of Hawaii ordering the Attorney General to review critical decision-making policies and the actions taken as search efforts continue for the hundreds still unaccounted for.
This fire was moving like a freight train. People could not drive fast enough to outrun it, much less run fast enough.
ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir traveling by boat to the shore of the incinerated town of Lahaina. A captain who responded the night the fires broke out, getting emotional.
You can see that people had no place to go other than the water or the one road out of town. I mean, they were trapped. Sorry.
Hawaii's governor says he's planning a statewide address tonight in which he'll discuss the rebuilding process as well as the search and recovery efforts. Melissa Adan, ABC News, Maui.
Now to a rare phenomenon, a hurricane churning in the Pacific near Mexico that's taking aim at the southwestern U.S. Forecasters say it could unload a year's worth of rain in less than 2 days. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has more.
California in the crosshairs as Hurricane Hillary strengthens off the Mexican coast and heads north.
Right now, it's a hurricane, although it's projected to, when it hits us, to be a tropical storm.
Communities stretching from San Diego to Nevada, even western Arizona are bracing for whipping winds, torrential rain, and flash floods. ABC's Rob Marciano explaining the potential impact.
Across some of the desert areas, we could see a year's worth of rain in places like Palm Springs or Las Vegas and some of those mountain areas in just a couple of days.
The storm is expected to make landfall in Mexico on Sunday and weaken as it approaches the U.S. border. Experts have their eyes fixed on Hillary's path. Its precise movement up the west coast will determine just how dangerous the system will be.
If it moves just a little bit more offshore and sort of, is more of a glancing blow for the Baja Peninsula, then it might not weaken quite as much.
Hillary set to make history if it reaches Southern California as a tropical storm.
This would be the first potential tropical system to make landfall in California in more than 80 years.
Warm waters west of Mexico are partially to blame for supercharging the system, which is also a concern in the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic Ocean, where several storms could develop in the coming days. One expert calling the record 88-degree water in the Gulf freakishly hot. Others warning that coral reefs, a vital part of the underwater ecosystem and a line of defense against hurricanes, are bleaching and dying across the Caribbean.
If we didn't have this spur and groove reef system right off the coast of the Keys, these islands would be decimated.
Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
A U.S. judge has declared Donald Trump's appeal in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case as frivolous. The case stems from Trump's 2019 denial that he raped Carroll in a department store dressing room in Manhattan in the mid-90s. Trump is appealing a judge's decision from June that said the former president doesn't deserve absolute presidential immunity. In a New York City courtroom today, the judge also denied the former president's bid to delay the case while he appeals.
Meanwhile, a Texas woman has been arrested and charged with threatening to kill a judge overseeing the election conspiracy case against Trump in Washington. It's alleged the woman called the federal courthouse and left a threatening message using a racist term for U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan. Investigators traced the number to the woman. Prosecutors allege the suspect threatened to kill the judge if Trump isn't elected in 2024. Meantime, authorities are working to trace the origin of threats to grand jurors who indicted Trump and 18 of his allies in Georgia. This comes after their names and personal information were posted online.
The manufacturer of the diabetes drug Ozempic says it's expecting a shortage of the drug to hit Canada. Ozempic has also been used off-label for weight loss. Novo Nordisk says it's experiencing what it calls a temporary supply disruption with the Ozempic 1 milligram injection pens. It blames the shortage on a combination of